Good morning, friends. Today I want to speak to you about something powerful, something that has the potential to transform your life if you embrace it, let go, and let God. There are seasons in life when we try so hard to control every detail, to shape every outcome, to carry burdens we were never meant to bear. We worry, we strive, we fight, but in doing so, we often forget the simplest and most freeing truth: God is in control. Letting go and letting God is a powerful concept that transforms the way we approach life's challenges. It is about trusting in God's plan and surrendering our worries, pain, and burdens to Him. Below are 4 important keynotes from the motivational speech that explain how we can embrace this life-changing idea. The first and most fundamental principle is that letting go means trusting that God is in control. As human beings, we often try to control every aspect of our lives. We want to plan our days, map out our futures, and make sure everything goes according to our desires. However, this often leads to frustration and stress because life doesn't always align with our plans. When we choose to trust God, we acknowledge that His wisdom is greater than ours. Proverbs 3:5-6 tells us to trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your path straight. Trusting God requires us to let go of the illusion that we have control over everything. Instead, we surrender our plans, our desires, and even our expectations to Him, believing that He is guiding us on the right path. This trust doesn't mean that we stop making efforts or planning. It means we allow God to take the lead, knowing that His will for our lives is far better than anything we could have planned for ourselves. The second keynote highlights that we must trust in God's timing and plan, even when things don't seem to be going our way. Life is filled with unexpected twists and turns. Sometimes we find ourselves in situations that don't make sense. We might face disappointments, struggles, or delays that make us wonder if God is listening. But we are reminded in Romans 8:28 that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. God's plan for us is not always revealed instantly, and His timing is often different from our own. In moments of frustration or confusion, it's important to remind ourselves that God's timing is always perfect. Even when we can't see the full picture, we must trust that He is working behind the scenes for our good. When we release our desire to control the outcome, we give God the space to work in His perfect timing. What may seem like a setback or delay can actually be a step towards something greater, a plan that only God can see. The third principle is that letting go brings peace and rest. Life's burdens can be heavy, and we often carry the weight of stress, anxiety, and uncertainty. We try to solve everything on our own, believing that if we don't control every aspect of our lives, things will fall apart. But the truth is that we are not designed to carry these burdens alone. Jesus offers us rest in Matthew 11:28 when He says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Letting go of our burdens doesn't mean we stop carrying. It means we trust God to carry them for us. When we surrender our struggles to God, He gives us peace that surpasses all understanding. This peace doesn't come from external circumstances, but from knowing that God is in control and He will provide for us. By choosing to trust God, we are free to rest in His care, knowing that we don't have to face life's challenges alone. Letting go creates space for peace, healing, and renewal. Finally, the fourth principle teaches us that God works all things for our good. Life is filled with ups and downs, and sometimes we experience pain, failure, or loss. During these times, it's easy to question why things are happening. However, we are reminded that God uses every situation, good or bad, to shape us into the person He wants us to be. In Romans 8:28, we are reassured that God works all things for the good of those who love Him. Even in our darkest moments, God is at work. He takes our challenges and turns them into opportunities for growth, strength, and character. When we let go of our need to control every detail of our lives, we give God the chance to take our pain and transform it into something beautiful. Through hardship, we learn patience, perseverance, and trust. What may seem like a failure or setback is often a stepping stone to something greater. When we release control and let God lead, we are inviting Him to work in ways we could never have imagined. In conclusion, letting go and letting God is a life-changing choice that brings peace, purpose, and trust. By surrendering our worries, our plans, and our fears to God, we allow Him to take the lead in our lives. We trust that He is in control, that His timing is perfect, and that He is working all things for our good. As we let go, we make space for God's peace to fill our hearts, and we experience a deeper relationship with Him. Let go, let God, and watch how He transforms your life. The first key takeaway from the concept of let God is the need to trust in God's control. As human beings, we naturally desire to control every aspect of our lives, from our careers to relationships to personal goals. The desire to hold tight to our plans and manage every detail stems from a fear of uncertainty and a belief that if we don't manage everything ourselves, things will fall apart. However, the Bible teaches us that trusting in our own understanding and control can only lead to stress and disappointment. Proverbs 3:5-6 offers a clear message: trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your path straight. These verses remind us that trusting God means relinquishing the need to manage every situation. When we let go of trying to control everything, we open ourselves to God's plan, which is far greater than anything we could imagine. God's understanding is limitless, while ours is limited. When we trust Him, we are acknowledging that He sees the bigger picture and is perfectly capable of leading us down the right path. Learning to trust God's control requires letting go of the illusion of security we get from managing every detail of our lives. God invites us to place our faith in His wisdom and timing, believing that He will guide us through the unknown. Trusting in God's control gives us peace in knowing that we don't have to carry the burden of solving everything on our own. We can surrender our need for control and trust that God's ways are higher and better. Trusting God's timing and plan. Another vital aspect of let God is trusting in God's timing and plan. Life often doesn't go according to our expectations, and this can leave us feeling frustrated, confused, and even hopeless at times. We may encounter delays, setbacks, or situations that seem impossible to overcome. In these moments, it's easy to doubt whether things will ever improve or if God even hears our prayers. But the Bible offers powerful assurance that God's timing is always perfect. Romans 8:28 tells us that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose, even when life doesn't unfold the way we plan. We are reminded that God is always at work, using every situation for our benefit. His plan may not be immediate, and it may not align with our expectations, but it is always for our greater good. The key is to trust that God's timing is not only perfect, but also necessary for us to grow and become the people He has designed us to be. When we try to force outcomes or rush situations, we often miss the lessons and blessings that come with waiting. Trusting in God's timing means accepting that He knows when the right moment will come. It requires patience, faith, and an understanding that God is always preparing us for what's next. The Bible speaks to this truth in Ecclesiastes 3:1. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. Sometimes our most difficult seasons are exactly what we need to prepare us for the future that God has planned. Trusting in God's plan means releasing our need to control the outcome and resting in His perfect design. Finding peace through letting go. The third key takeaway from let God is the peace we experience when we surrender our burdens to God. Life often brings stress, anxiety, and a sense of overwhelm. We carry the weight of responsibilities, expectations, and uncertainties, and this can take a toll on our mental, emotional, and physical health. But God offers us an alternative, a way to experience peace in the midst of life's chaos. Jesus promises in Matthew 11:28, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." This verse speaks directly to our struggles. It invites us to bring our heavy loads to God, trusting that He will provide the rest we need. When we carry our worries alone, we are weighed down, but when we let go and surrender our burdens to God, He offers us His peace that surpasses all understanding, Philippians 4:7. Letting go doesn't mean giving up or being passive. Rather, it's about placing our trust in God to handle what we cannot. It's about recognizing that we don't have to have all the answers, and we don't have to fix everything ourselves. God is big enough to handle our worries, our pain, and our fear. By letting go, we create room for God to work in our lives, allowing His peace to fill our hearts. In times of hardship, trusting God to carry our burdens allows us to experience a peace that transcends circumstances. We no longer need to stress over things we cannot control. Instead, we find rest in knowing that God is working everything out for our good, even when it doesn't seem that way. When we let go and trust God, we are choosing peace over worry, surrender over striving, and faith over fear. The keynotes of trusting God's control, trusting His timing, and finding peace through letting go all lead us to a life of greater peace, purpose, and fulfillment. The act of surrendering our fears, burdens, and plans to God is not about weakness. It is about recognizing His strength and wisdom. When we let go and let God, we align ourselves with His divine plan, trusting that He will lead us in the right direction and provide us with everything we need. One of the most significant aspects of the principle, let go, let God, is trusting in God's control over our lives. In a world that often encourages self-reliance and the pursuit of independence, we are constantly faced with the temptation to control every situation, relationship, and outcome in our lives. This need for control can stem from a desire for security, a fear of uncertainty, or the belief that we can manage things better than anyone else. However, the Bible teaches that when we try to take control into our own hands, we often create unnecessary stress, anxiety, and confusion. In Proverbs 3:5-6, we are told, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, in all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight." These verses emphasize the importance of fully trusting in God's wisdom and relinquishing the need to manage every aspect of our lives. Trusting God requires that we acknowledge His omniscience and sovereignty, recognizing that His understanding of our circumstances is far greater than ours. While we may be tempted to hold on tightly to our plans, God invites us to surrender them to Him, knowing that He sees the bigger picture and has our best interests at heart. Letting go of our desire for control doesn't mean we stop making efforts or taking actions. Rather, it means we trust God to direct our paths. It's about recognizing that no matter how much we plan, we cannot foresee all the twists and turns that life may take. By releasing our grip on the reins of our lives, we open ourselves to God's perfect will, which is always for our good. When we trust that God is in control, we can find peace in the midst of uncertainty, knowing that He is guiding us toward the purpose He has for us. This surrendering of control does not happen overnight. It is a continual process of learning to let go of the need for certainty and embracing the unknown with confidence that God is with us. One of the most powerful acts of faith is trusting that God's plan is better than our own, even when things don't go according to our desires. As we release our need to control, we are giving God the space to work in our lives in ways that we could never have imagined. Trusting in God's control frees us from the burden of trying to orchestrate every detail, allowing us to experience peace and rest in His guidance. Another profound takeaway from the concept of let go, let God, is trusting in God's timing and His plan for our lives. As human beings, we often live with a sense of urgency and impatience. We want things to happen quickly, and when they don't, it can cause frustration, doubt, and anxiety. It is easy to feel like time is slipping away and that God is not acting fast enough. Yet the Bible reminds us repeatedly that God's timing is perfect, even when it doesn't align with our own. Romans 8:28 offers a powerful reminder, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. This verse reassures us that God is actively working behind the scenes, using every circumstance, whether good or bad, for our ultimate benefit. When we trust in God's timing, we are acknowledging that He sees the entirety of our lives, while we only see the present moment. His plans are not hindered by the limitations of time, and His timing is never late. It is always right, even when it seems delayed or when we feel like we are waiting for answers. The challenge we face is learning to trust God's timing, especially when it doesn't line up with our expectations. We may face periods of waiting when nothing seems to be happening, and doubt can creep in. During these times, we may be tempted to take matters into our own hands, trying to force outcomes or make things happen on our own. However, doing so often leads to frustration and disappointment. Instead, trusting in God's timing means waiting patiently, knowing that He is working in the background to prepare us for what's to come. The delays and setbacks we experience may be part of God's greater plan to shape us, refine us, and prepare us for something better. The Bible teaches us that there is a season for everything. In Ecclesiastes 3:1, we read, there is a time for everything. And a season for every activity under the heavens life is filled with different seasons, and each season serves a purpose. Just because we are not experiencing the results we want at this very moment doesn't mean that God is not working. Often He is preparing us for something far greater than what we could have imagined. When we trust in God's timing, we can rest assured that He will bring about His perfect plan for us at the right moment. By letting go of the need to control the timing of our lives, we create space for God to work in His way and His time. This surrendering allows us to experience peace, knowing that God's plans for us are always for our good. His timing is never delayed, and His plan is always purposeful. When we let go and trust in God's timing and plan, we find rest in the knowledge that He is always at work in our lives, orchestrating every detail according to His divine will. In conclusion, trusting in God's control and His timing are key aspects of living a life aligned with His will. By letting go of our need to control every detail and trusting that God is in control, we experience peace, freedom, and fulfillment. When we surrender our impatience and trust in God's perfect timing, we open ourselves to the beautiful plans He has for us. Letting go and letting God are not just words, they are a lifestyle that brings us closer to the abundant life He promises. One of the most transformative aspects of the principle, let go, let God, is the peace that we experience when we choose to surrender our burdens to God. Life is full of challenges, uncertainties, and pressures that can easily overwhelm us. Whether it's dealing with personal struggles, financial difficulties, or relational problems, we often find ourselves carrying heavy loads. These burdens can weigh down our hearts, minds, and bodies, making it difficult to experience peace. The act of letting go and allowing God to take control is a powerful way to find the peace that transcends understanding. Jesus in Matthew 11:28-30 invites us to bring our burdens to Him. Come to me, all you who weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, my burden is light. This invitation is not just a call to rest physically, but also to find deep, lasting peace for our souls. When we carry our worries, fears, and anxieties alone, we are weighed down by them. But when we surrender these burdens to God, He offers us a peace that is not dependent on our circumstances, but on His presence and power. Letting go does not mean giving up. It means releasing control and trusting that God is bigger than any situation we face. Often we think that in order to fix something or solve a problem, we must do everything ourselves. This belief can lead to stress, burnout, and a sense of helplessness when things don't go according to plan. However, when we let go and allow God to take the lead, we are trusting that His wisdom and strength far exceed our own. By letting go of the need to fix everything, we make room for God to work in ways that we might not be able to see or understand at the moment. When we learn to let go, we also learn to release our expectations and trust in God's perfect timing. Our impatience can often be a source of stress and frustration. We want things to happen on our timeline, and when they don't, we become anxious and uneasy. However, when we let go of the need to control the timing of our lives, we align ourselves with God's greater plan. Isaiah 55:8-9 reminds us that, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. God's perspective is far greater than ours, and His timing is perfect. We may not understand why things are happening the way they are, but when we trust in God's timing, we can rest in the knowledge that He is working things out for our good. Another key aspect of finding peace through letting go is releasing our need for perfection. In a world that often measures success by external achievements and standards, we can feel pressure to be perfect in every area of our lives. We strive for success, approval, and recognition, believing that our worth is tied to what we accomplish. This creates an exhausting cycle of performance-based living, which only leads to stress and dissatisfaction. However, God calls us to find our identity and peace in Him, not in our accomplishments. In Philippians 4:6-7, we are told, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. When we surrender our need for perfection and trust that God loves us unconditionally, we experience a peace that is not dependent on what we do, but on who we are in Christ. Letting go also means trusting God with our fears and anxieties. Life can be unpredictable, and sometimes fear of the unknown can create a barrier to peace. We worry about the future, about things beyond our control, and about what might happen if things don't work out as we hope. However, Jesus reassures us in Matthew 6:34, therefore do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. When we let go of our worries about the future and trust that God will provide for us, we free ourselves from the weight of anxiety. God promises to take care of us, and when we fully trust Him, we experience His peace, knowing that He is in control. Finding peace through letting go is a powerful practice that brings freedom and rest to our lives. When we release our burdens to God, trust His timing, let go of perfection, and surrender our fears, we open ourselves up to His peace. This peace is not contingent on external circumstances, but is rooted in our relationship with God, who offers us rest for our souls. By letting go and letting God, we experience a profound sense of calm, knowing that God is working in our lives, guiding us with His love and wisdom.